All right, here we go with another one. This is covering the 2 day championship that I fished for my bass club. It's just a small 20-person bass club that I fish in throughout the year. Just friends that live local and stuff like that. Just a low cost tournament that we can have fun with throughout the year. And we had a 2 day championship on Lake Erie mid October. I don't remember the dates. Maybe the 17th, 20th, something like that. Anyway, it was mid October, and the way that tournament works is you fish 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and you can launch wherever you want, but you have to meet a meeting point, and at the start, everybody can take off and go where they want to launch at. You can't just go to the launch right at the start of the day. I can't remember where we met. Maybe Dempsey, Ramp, and Sandusky Bay. I can't remember. But anyway, I ended up launching at Missouri's. So I had Friday, I had 1 day to pre-fish, or 2 day. I'm sorry, 2 days to pre-fish and 2 days of tournament. So I fished 4 days. So you'll have 4 days of info for mid-October fishing, and this was U.S. waters only. So I did end up going to Canada one of the half of the days, and I can show you guys where I fished up there. But I was fun fishing up there since we couldn't fish this tournament in Canadian waters. So on Thursday before that weekend, I fished by myself, and then I had a buddy coming up Friday to fish with me that was off work on Thursday, and we had great weather. By the way, it was pretty good weather for all 4 days. 2 days of pre-fishing, 2 days of tournament. On Thursday, that first day, I had planned. Basically I ran through, uh, got a water temp first. Figured that water had started to cool down like I thought it would. I think low 60s, 60s, something like that was a water temp. Maybe up to mid 60s because it was still a little warm. So I figured those fish might be in that mid range because I had fished the BFL, and they were fairly deep where I was catching them during that BFL. So I figured they had moved up to that mid range, 15 foot, 12, 15, stuff like that. What I ended up finding was a lot shallower fish. They were pushing bait hard. So they were chasing bait in wolf packs is what I found around the islands. And I didn't find that till, I don't know, late morning that first day of practice because I was running through waypoints. But on that first day, I didn't even fish. I didn't even fish over at Kelly's Island. I just ran up. I ran up around Rattlesnake, Middle Bass, and South Bass, and Green Island. The fishing was great. It ended up being great fishing that whole 4 days. But I started up here at Rattlesnake that first day of practice. Caught some fish up here on the rattles, and they were, I mean, okay fish. They were 3 to 3.25 pounds, and they were pretty grouped up. I was catching multiple fish up there. I fished along the side here on the north side, and I threw a jerk bait shallow to see if there was any fish up shallow, and I ended up catching some 2 to 2.25 pound fish on a jerk bait on the north side. But obviously, I might not fish that way during the tournament if I'm looking for bigger fish. So left Rattlesnake, went down to this point on Middle Bass, and again the C map sucks because there's actually a rock jetty that comes out right here, right where my cursor's at. What I did was I sat in front of that rock jetty in like 8 foot of water and spot locked, and I was just kind of casting this whole underwater point here, and I ended up catching 2 or 3 fish in a row. I mean, like 2 or 3 casts. Every cast was a fish. So I left there Thursday. Went down here and I fished shallow, kind of on Buckeye Reef. Didn't catch anything. Then I fished this whole north shore of South Bass. Don't think I caught anything over there. And then I ran down just the top half is what I fished on Thursday of South Bass. I ran a jerkbait down this whole side, and I was catching 2.5 to 3.5 pound fish on jerkbaits. Just running these points kind of like I did in May last year, just running these points with jerkbaits. And then what I would do is I hit these little cuts here. We have these rocks that stick out. I was hitting these cuts here with jerkbaits too, and they were kind of sitting in these bowls. And then I came back up. I came back up to the north side of South Bass Island right here. And what I found was these fish were pushing bait. I was watching them on the live. You could see them on the live sonar pushing small bait schools around, and they were actually coming up to the surface and feeding on these baits. So that's why that jerk bait was working so good. We hit the exact right water temperature for them to start doing that. So it was pretty fun fishing. So I caught a bunch of fish that morning up until about 1 o'clock on Thursday. And so I called my buddy and I said, hey, I don't want to keep fishing and beat all these fish up because you and I got to catch, 10 fish in the boat Saturday and Sunday. So I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to run to Canada and just poke around and try to find some stuff for next year. So that's what I did Thursday afternoon is I ran up to Peely Island, fished Mill Point. I caught some nice fish up here. I fished just the east side of Peely Island. I fished from Mill Point up, I would say close to the tip. I could see that helicopter pad pretty good. So I fished this whole side here, and I caught a bunch of nice fish, man. 4 pounds, 4 pounders. I mean, I'd have had over 20 pounds if I could fish Canada right there. But anyway, that's what I did Thursday afternoon. And then on Friday, my buddy came up, and the way this tournament works, or the way this bass club works, is you can fish with another guy in the bass club on the same boat, but you guys are fishing for 2 different limits. So it's like the BFL format where the boater has to catch 5 and then the co-angler has to catch his own 5. So my buddy was planning on fishing with me Saturday and Sunday on my boat, so we needed to put 10 bass in the boat per day for us to have a limit, but we're fishing against each other. So he came up Friday and we fished. We ran through all those waypoints that I hit on Thursday, and we caught 1 fish apiece at all those places. So I said, okay, good. All the fish are still here. Then I said, well, I haven't fished Kelly's at all, so let's go over to Kelly's. So we ran over to Kelly's. We fished this top place up here, and I caught 1 nice fish up here. I made 4. It wasn't 4. It wasn't quite 4.5. I think 4.3, 4.4, something like that. Caught 1 nice fish on this underwater point up here, and then we didn't fish in here at all. Didn't fish over here, and we came over here to this west side, like I did in the BFL. And what I did was I didn't fish out here in mid-October. I came up in here in this bowl right here. And man, we were wrecking some big fish in here. Up to 4.5 pounds. I mean, up to 4.5. We didn't catch any giants, but we weighed the first one. It was like 4.25. Then we caught a 4.30, and then one was like 4.55. And we caught 3 big fish in here in short order that day. So what we decided to do was that's going to be our starting spot on Saturday because there's big fish there, and it's Friday afternoon, So we left those fish and caught 3, left those fish, went down and we fished this hole down here. We caught one more big one down here, and it was almost pushing 5 pounds. And guys, we were in 16 to 17 foot of water. So they had moved in from that 22 depth. So we were 16 to 17 foot for sure in here. And I caught, yeah, I caught that almost 5 pounder, probably close to here, I would say. So we had four really nice fish there in real short time. So we completely left that area and went down to the south side to see if, hey, if they're shallow up here, we were thinking they might be up here in 17 foot on the south side. So we fished all along here and didn't catch anything. There might have been bass there, but we didn't find them. So anyway, we left for the day, went back, ate some dinner. Saturday morning, tournament rolls around. Man, we come up here and we fished there for 3 hours, never caught a fish. So those fish had, they were either running bait the day before or something. Those fish were gone. They left. So we slid out a little deeper to see if they were out here. They were not out there. So 3 hours wasted there. We left and we started running waypoints all through here. And we both ended up with keeper limits, but not the size that we had the day before. So we were both like, I don't know, 13 to 15 pounds, something like that, weighed in. But we ran, those are the same. I didn't fish any new water on Saturday. We ran all this stuff, mostly shallow stuff. I lost a really big one, 5+ over here when we were fishing this point. There was fish pushing bait up onto that current. There's a lot of current that rips around there. The fish were pushing bait up in close there. So lost a really nice fish there that would have upgraded. But for the most part, we ran what we wanted to do, and that was jerk baits. That might have been why we had the low limits on Saturday. But man, it was fun. We caught a lot of fish. All we did was throw jerk baits on this west side of South Bass mostly. We caught a few on rattlesnake too, but mostly on this west side of South Bass. It was a fun day. All right, skip over to day 2 of the tournament, which is Sunday. That Sunday, my buddy had to leave that night. He got called into work for Monday night or Sunday night. I'm sorry. He got called into work for Sunday night, so he had to leave. He couldn't fish Sunday. So I fished by myself on Sunday, and I told myself, hey, I'm just going to go try to find some new waypoints, maybe stuff that I haven't tried or fished or in the same areas, but just stuff that I haven't done. So I did not go to Kelly's. I ran up to South Bass because there was a lot of fish hanging on this west side, like a lot of fish. So I ran over to I went up here first on that Sunday, and I fished this point right here. And I caught 3 fish right away. They weren't big, 2.5 pounds. Then I went straight over to Green Island because I figured those fish got to be hanging there too. So what I found at Green Island was these fish were kind of hanging on the downslopes of these contours in 17 foot. The bigger fish, I'm talking the bigger fish that I caught that day. So I was just going around this island and I ran over this. A lot of people fish there. I didn't see anything that looked good over there. But anyway, I was fishing 17 foot around the island, around these drop-offs here. And I was scoping. And what I found was these wolf packs would just kind of sit there until bait came through or they felt like feeding. So I sat and I watched the school on this north side for like 10 minutes. And I was casting a drop shot, throwing a swim bait, stuff like that in there. And then all of a sudden you see a big blob go through the screen of shad. And that school would just fire up and just start ripping through that school of shad. As soon as they would start doing that, I threw a a 3-3 Kitech out there, just white, a 3-3 white Kitech out there, and it was like, they had never seen it before, and they were all fighting over it. So, caught some nice fish. First fish I caught over here was 460. I continued to do that around green for a couple hours. I ended up with two 460s in my bag, two 460, one 460, one 465, I think. Those were my two biggest fish. Got done playing with those fish over there, and then to finish up at the end of the day, I had like a couple hours left, I think. I stopped at this point on South Bass, and there was a lot of fish. I was graphing a lot of fish on the side scan and live sonar going through here. So I just kind of spot locked on this point, and I was running a drop shot, and that current was ripping through there. I was just using a drop shot, casting this way towards the ferry dock, and just kind of letting it sit and hopping it back. And I ended up catching two more nice fish for upgrades. One was 3.8, and one was like 4.2. So upgraded those, and I still had one squeak in my bag. I think it was like 2.5, 2 3/4, something like that. But anyway, ended up with a nicer bag than I had Saturday. Yeah, the fishing was great in that mid-October, and it was getting better as the weekend went on and the weather got nicer and nicer that week. The fishing would just got better over those 4 days. So if we would have went back the next weekend, we probably would have wrecked them. Even better with bigger fish. Anyway, that was a mid-October. That's mid-October for you guys. I wish these fish over at Kelly's would have bit Saturday morning or stayed there. We would have had some really nice fish that day. But hopefully that helps you guys out for next year when the water starts cooling down. And then, and it's real similar to what they do in the spring too. So look for that same stuff to be happening the first week of May, maybe even the last week of April, depending on what the weather does this year. I know we got a bunch of cold weather coming, but depending on how quick it warms up, look for those fish to start doing the same stuff around that time, last week of April, first week of May, something like that. Before when they start to move up, before they make beds. So, all right, guys, that was a quick one on that 2-day tourney we fished. The next video I have for you guys is where I fished during the fall brawl for walleye. So I think you guys will find some of those spots pretty interesting. Trying to think outside the box during this fall brawl. I fished the obvious areas, and I'll cover that in the video, but there were some areas that maybe you guys haven't fished before. So check that one out next. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.